Years ago, I used to travel for work. I was the head of learning and development, or the director of learning and development for a pretty large outfit that did global logistics and so on. So anyhow, one time, and it's funny because when you start to travel a lot, there's a lot of things that you learn that help you grow what I call traveling chops, because all traveling is not made the same. So any of you that think business travel is glamorous, think again, because let me tell you, it's not glamorous. There's nothing glamorous about it. It's a lonely life on the road. But one time I was out in Toronto, and when I got to Toronto, it was snowing, and it was snowing pretty bad. Any of you that have been to Toronto or even in the Northeast know that when the snow comes, it gets bad. And so I was in Toronto. I'm looking out at the airport, and I could see the snow coming down. So I called my boss, and I said, I don't know what's going to happen. So then the next day, I wake up in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. I call my boss, and I look outside, and I say, hey, look, it's clear outside. Because we're all getting up at 5 in the morning, because that was kind of our deal. So it wasn't like I just called this cat up at 5 o'clock in the morning every day and said, hey, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. Just one of those things. But anyway, so we were talking, and it was pretty funny because I said, it's clear outside. So it looks like the weather got better. And he says, no. He says, what I want you to do, Saab, go out, turn on your car, turn the car on, let the car start warming up while you go and get ready. So of course I'm like, no, I don't need to do all that. It seems like too much. It's extra, blah, 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 blah. Well, let me tell you, I went outside, and what I didn't realize was when the snow goes away, the temperature goes up because the clouds act as an insulator over the land. I tell you this long story to tell you that I left my house this morning, and yesterday it was raining. The day before it was raining. So it had been raining for the last several days. Well, today I'm getting up and I'm going where? To the Master Gardener program. Guess what it's not doing? It's not raining. And so since it's not raining, guess what's happening outside? It's colder than a mug. But anyway, that's enough of that. But anyhow, I'm back. It's another Wednesday. I kind of like, again, I think I mentioned last time, I like these Wednesday mornings because they give us an opportunity to talk early in the morning. I'm not usually up this early, but the Master Gardener program gave me an opportunity to get up, process thoughts early in the morning, and I find that I'm a little bit more lucid early in the morning because I'm fresh. I'm not clogged up from all the stuff that's happening during the course of the day. And, quite frankly, I like driving. I like driving, seeing some of the open space. You can't see around me now, but right around me are just these huge green spaces that, they just bring peace. They just bring peace to the day. So, yeah, but I have been thinking a lot about a few things that I think I wanted to share with you. And it just kind of goes to, I'm not on that deal where I'm trying to tell everybody, go out and sacrifice your well-being and your peace of mind and all that to go out and retire. Because I just don't think. I think when you do that, I think retirement becomes the end, and I just don't agree that retirement is the end of anything except for the end of one phase and the beginning of another. But I don't tend to believe that. But I try to give some perspective to help you feel better about what it is that you're doing and live your best life. And again, you don't need me to say anything, but there is a population out there that looks at the fact that somebody's doing something that maybe you thought would be interesting or that you would like to do at some point. And so I'm just telling you my story. So if it resonates with you, feel free to subscribe. If not, I apologize for wasting your time. But at the end of the day, it's really just about sharing information, because unfortunately, the the era of passing down information in the way that we used to is gone with the internet and everything else. Now it's just go check Wikipedia. So, but the thing I've been thinking about a lot lately is, I think there's different groups of people that have different abilities to process new information. And what I mean by that is I get into a lot of these conversations with people, and these are people that are my age, people that are younger, people that are older, and we'll talk about, a current topic. We'll talk about something. And what they'll do is they'll go to a time that was a different time than the time that we're in now. And I'm okay with that. Don't get me wrong, because I think there is a value in history. I think there's a value in knowing the past. I think there's a value of knowing, how did we get to this place? Because, getting to this place, everything that's ever happened up to this point has gotten us to this place, and everything we do now is going to get us to where it is that we go going forward. So I do believe that. But what happens sometimes is people will use old facts or old information to discuss housing issues. So let me see if I can give you an example, or to deal with issues. So I'll give you an example. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and we were talking about housing. And we were talking about the lack of affordable housing, and we were talking about some of the challenges that different groups have had historically from a housing perspective. And that, it takes a targeted effort to catch up, so that way, people can, catch up and buy homes. Now, I think it's way more complicated than that, but I think in theory, that's kind of the basic premise. And if you have a different premise, let me know. But if it's something that's just going to go in and attack the unhoused, I'm just not interested in it, so don't do it. But if you have an idea, some other idea, let me know in the comments, because again, it's about exploring all these ideas. So anyhow, we started talking about some of that. And then, so he started talking about, he's like, well, there's laws on the books that are preventing people from moving into certain neighborhoods, and we have to address that. And I said, okay. So my question is, where is that happening? Because from what I understand, and this is the whole idea of redlining and keeping certain groups out of certain communities, so, it retains the property values and all that, which is valid, was a piece of our history, and, we still pay the remnants of that today. So I don't want you to get the impression that I sweep this under the rug or invalidate the fact that this happened. But what I am saying is that I don't think there's current laws on the books in my town in Northern California. Let me say, in my town in Northern California, that caused that kind of redlining of the districts or whatever the case is. Now, there might have been at some point. I think redlining was and may continue to be a thing in different places. But when you're looking at solving a problem, you have to use the context of what's kind of in front of you for that particular problem to be solved. But I say that to say that, I'm not going to say he was wrong, because he's not wrong. But what I am going to say is that there's new information to be had about, this topic. And I think that when I look at like our systems of government, one of the breakdowns I think we have in our systems of government, and I think anybody would agree with this, is that the government seems to be slow to react to broad changes. And so when you look at like computers and stuff like that, and you start looking at some of the other technologies. Now, there are a lot of technologies that the government's out in front of, so I don't want to say that. More military technology, but just from a day-to-day technology perspective, or a day-to-day change perspective, I don't think the government is the place that we go as our source of truth for that type of stuff. If you are, then I apologize for that. But I just think we have to take in new information. I think we live in a very, very complex time. We're dealing with a lot of different dynamics just in the world. What I have to deal with on a day-to-day basis just in interacting with different people is different than it was when I was younger, and it was different than when my parents were younger, and it's different than when you were younger, and it's going to be different when you get older because one of the things we didn't have when I was growing up, as an example, is we didn't have cell phones. So the way that I communicated was on a regular phone that had a long cord that sat in the kitchen that I can pull from one room to another so I could get some privacy, and I'd get those cords at the flea markets. And so I say all that to say, sorry, just adjusting my phone, it keeps bouncing around. I say all that to say that, if I were still judging or trying to figure out communications based on that old technology, then I may not be able to communicate with anybody. So, but we've come a long way just in a short period of time. And so the way that we communicate has evolved in that way. The way that we manage and we gather information has evolved. The way that we communicate with each other has evolved. And so the way that we do things have evolved. I think, when we look at the world of retirement, I think there's some serious changes going on there. A lot of people talk about the likes of, what's his name, Warren Buffett and some of those cats. And, those cats, they had some stuff that worked for a long period of time. But, the one question that I have, and I'll continue to have this question, is, now that we have the Robin Hoods, and now that we have the Acorns, and now that we have the E-Trades, and now that we have all of these companies whose job it is to make things more accessible, making information more accessible, is that going to change how the dynamics of the marketplace? Now that stocks are more readily available, is it going to take away from the allure of stocks? Now, my answer to that question would probably be no, because stocks are still anchored in the value of companies. Now, there's a whole discussion out there about the valuation of companies and whether the valuation is good or not, and so on. But at the end of the day, it's still groups of people that own companies, and those companies are what makes the stock price whatever the stock price is. So unless you're looking at the factors that are impacting the stock price today, if you're looking at the market factors from 50 years ago, you may be able to use those as a reference for something that happened today, but you really need to understand what's happening today. So, every Wednesday I come out here and I trick myself into sleeping a little bit later and later and later. And here I am now, sitting here in traffic. And the problem with that is that the seat that I want is in the front of the class, and I think those are coveted seats. I mean, if I need to change seats, then I need to change seats, but oh well, it is what it is. I'm not too worried about it. So yeah, so now I'm gonna be in traffic here for about another, 30 minutes. I'm hoping not that long, because I do want to get to my class early, at least 30 minutes early, so I can get my seat, have my coffee, and get ready to learn some new stuff about gardening. Last week we learned about soil structure and soil fertilizing. It's interesting stuff when you look at the difference between like a clay and a sand and a loam, and the ability to hold water. And I did not know that there's actually a problem with soils that drain too fast. So that's another piece of it. That's another thing. So, but anyhow, I'm not going to leave you on for that. I know this would be a very, very long morning, but I did want to just reach out, have a little coffee with you, have some coffee with my peeps, just talk a little bit about something that's on my mind. Let me know what's on your mind, and then we can have those as topics, on these calls. In fact, and I asked this on my YouTube community, but I'm going to ask again because you're my people. But one of the things I have thought about, and I just don't know if what you think about this, but what I'm thinking about is doing a live session. And so I know there's some of you out there that have said that you would be interested in participating in a live session. So I appreciate those responses. I'm wondering if I should do it from the car. I'm wondering if, as I'm driving into the Master Gardener program, do I drive in and do I do it on the car? Now, the only problem is that if I'm driving, it's going to be hard to check comments and stuff like that. But, if there's a way to make that work, maybe I'll do a live from the car, and you can enjoy this morning. Now, I will tell you that today is a beautiful day, but tomorrow it's supposed to rain again. So this is a cold between, and when I say it's cold, I don't know if you remember the last time it was 43 degrees, or I'm sorry, it was 36 degrees, and today it's a little warmer. It's 43, so it's not quite as bad as I thought it was going to be. So I'm pretty happy about that. But it's still fairly cold outside. And these rooms, when you sit in classrooms, it's no different than when you're a kid. They're these industrially made rooms. Whoa, this dude just jumped right behind me. People don't know how to fucking drive. Oh, excuse my language. I have to edit that out. But people just, they don't know how to drive, and this is how accidents happen. You don't wait until you get to the end of the lane and then just jump between two cars where you don't have space and hope somebody hits their brakes. That's just a dangerous situation. So sorry about that. I digress. I die. I do what I do. I did what I did, and it is what it is. So, but maybe having us, on the phone and talking about, a topic, and we can come up with a topic ahead of time and just talk through something and get some thoughts, because there's a lot going on, and I tend to talk about just life because, again, I went through this time when I was talking about just being this retired cat, and then I realized that being that retired cat, all I have to do is talk, because no matter what I do, I'm that retired cat. And so if you know that I'm that retired cat and I'm talking about something, then you know that this is what retired cats, at least this retired cat, talks about and thinks about now that he's found early retirement. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and let you go. But have a good rest of your day, and think about. I do want to challenge you to think about some of this stuff that we talk about here, because in its full format, it's a lot of information. But if you take it pieces at a time, there's always pieces that you can come back to, or there's little tidbits of information, and you're getting the benefit of getting all of the tidbits of information in one conglomerate, where I got it all piece by piece, and it's really just to help give you some perspective, to help shape your perspective, so that way you have a winning perspective as you look at either retiring early or living your best life, or both, because they're not mutually exclusive. So anyhow, on that note, have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.